Good evening and thanks for joining us. On the one-year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration, the federal government is shut down. All but the most essential functions of government are being halted, but the Senate and House of Representatives are in session, with no clear end in sight. Mail will still be delivered, Social Security checks will still go out, the military will continue its missions around the world. Some national parks do remain open. But if the shutdown continues into Monday, nearly 800,000 federal workers will be furloughed, including workers from almost every federal agency. This morning, President Trump tweeted that, quote, Democrats wanted to give me a nice present, and later said they are, quote, holding our military hostage over their desire to have unchecked illegal immigration. Earlier in the day, the president spoke with Republican leaders from the White House. The White House legislative director insisted that no negotiations on immigration issues could continue while the government is shut down.
We're not going to be held hostage and let our troops be held hostage over this. When they reopen the government, we will continue the discussions.
Last night, with less than 2 hours before the midnight deadline, the Senate voted on a package that had already passed the House of Representatives. It would have kept the government open for another 4 weeks, extended the children's health insurance program for 6 years, and permanently repealed 2 health care taxes. But the bill did not include any immigration measures. Republicans fell 10 votes short of the 60 needed. 5 Democrats joined with Republicans to support the measure, and 5 Republicans sided with Democrats to vote against the resolution. Immediately, leaders from both parties blamed each other. In a statement just before the midnight deadline, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders called the Democrats, quote, obstructionist losers. Republicans are calling the shutdown the Schumer shutdown after the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
The American people cannot begin to understand why the Senate Democratic leader thinks the entire government should be shut down until he gets his way on illegal immigration.
Minority Leader Schumer called it the Trump shutdown and insisted that Democrats were willing to compromise, including on funding for a wall on the border with Mexico.
Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O. It's next to impossible. As soon as you take one step forward, the hard right forces the president 3 steps back.
Senator John McCain, who did not vote because he's being treated for brain cancer in Arizona, blamed both sides. In a statement, he said, for years, under both a Republican and Democrat-controlled Congress and White House, partisanship has taken precedent over national security. For some analysis, I'm joined from Washington, D.C. by the NewsHour's Lisa Desjardins. Lisa, we hear this idea of kind of a 3-week extension being kicked around Capitol Hill today. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that's the dominant plan right now. The idea would be to extend funding for most of government, all of the part that's lapsed, for 3 weeks until February 8th. It's something that both sides are interested in, Hari, but the problem is Democrats say they still want guarantees that there will be votes on the DACA legislation that they think can pass the Senate. They believe they have 60 votes for that legislation. Why it hasn't passed, they say, is because simply Majority Leader Mitch McConnell won't bring it up. So they're saying this is our one chance, we think, to get guarantees that DACA legislation has a chance. They might like the 3-week deal, but they don't trust Republicans. And in the last day, Democrats say the president and Paul Ryan have rejected offers from Democrats that they thought were reasonable. They're not sure who they can trust.
So this trust issue has come partly in the context of a lot of finger pointing that happened yesterday. The Republicans want to call this the Schumer shutdown, and Schumer wants to call it the Trump shutdown.
Right. Right. And I think that's a sign of where we are. I do not sense at all on Capitol Hill the urgency that I think is required to end a shutdown. Instead, what you have is people trying to brand this shutdown, brand the blame, and instead you see both sides looking to their bases for support rather than talking about the very real-world effects that will start probably on Monday, and then if there's a week-long shutdown, then we will see even more effects because, Hari, Friday is the last time that federal workers will get a paycheck without government funds. So then we would see people's bank accounts start to be funded. Almost 1 million federal workers would be furloughed, and nearly every federal worker would be affected if paychecks lapsed.
Yeah, well, at this impasse right now, it doesn't seem like Mitch McConnell wants to move anywhere on immigration. It doesn't seem like the White House says, look, we're not going to talk about immigration while the government is still shut down. But that is kind of supposed to be a line in the sand for Democrats and progressives and liberals and saying you can't move forward on this border wall funding without getting something here.
Well, there are a lot of complicating factors here. One is the personalities involved. It's not clear to me what Mitch McConnell wants ultimately on immigration, but I do think he would like to see a bill pass the Senate. He would like to see Dreamers protected. But the issue is we've now seen the White House move in and reject immigration deals that Mitch McConnell was allowing to start be created. So I think the end game on that is very complicated and has to do as much with Republican Party divide as Democrats versus Republicans.
All right, Lisa Desjardins joining us from Washington, D.C. tonight. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.